Oh, I've just realised I'm not showing the screen. Sorry about that. That's a minor detail. So I might just go back on that for a moment. So just bear with me for 2 shakes while I get that back on and going. Pardon me for that. Usually I'm quite well organised in that way, but anyway. As I put here, you've got your Sunday and Monday timetables. These are the respective times for different general places across the planet, and this has proved to be about right where we've got the majority of our participants in the last program, which has had a couple of hundred people attend and participate. And as I said before, first thing is using the Agrarian's farm planning process. So we've got all of that there, and that we're going through all of the layers of that. So you've heard all of that before. What I wanted to do was just show you the Agrarian's work. Where are we? About services land planning process. I just wanted to show you the works pattern that we have. I might just make that a bit bigger. So when we work with clients, what happens is we try and get people to develop a holistic context, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute, and also for them to create a boundary map in Google Earth and so on. So that's something that we get people to do first, and also complete a checklist. Secondly, we then do an online session where we discuss what they've got ahead of them and get to know each other, etc. That would have otherwise happened face-to-face at a table, and that still sometimes does happen when we do on-site consultations. We then set forth to develop an aerial topo map. So we get an aerial photo. Typically that's derived from Google Earth these days, because generally that's of a fairly high resolution. And then we either use government-supplied topographic data, or we seek to have a survey actually completed. In a lot of places in the world now there's LiDAR mapping, and so that helps us to overcome the need to do an actual survey, but then with some clients we get one done. Then we go through and discuss the Agrarian's platform, and so that, if you like, is part of where we start with the REX program. And then what we do is go and do a walk and talk, and you might say that that's somewhat of a site analysis, where we go across the site and I get to see what the place looks like, what the lie of land is, and just troubleshoot and see any things that are really standing out as needing to be addressed. Then we develop a concept plan, and once we develop the concept, or through developing the concept plan, one dreams a bit. You put all of the things that are out there that you think you might want to do, and then in the next step is when you actually whittle that down through a detailed planning phase. And one keeps coming back to the holistic context that you develop, and also also any enterprise plans that are part of that, to determine the feasibility of some of the things that you might want to do. And then you've got reporting, and you might do a follow-up of a presentation and so on. So that's what we do when we're working with people directly on an on-site consultation. When we're doing it in this framework, it's a little bit different, but somewhat similar. So we've got the Agrarian's platform as the sort of framework, the foundation of thinking, and of all of the topics or layers that we may consider, and all of the factors within those. We then develop a holistic context, and so with that we have Javan Banakovic, David Ward, Helen Lewis, and Graham Hand, all very experienced holistic management consultants, and they work with us or work with you to develop a holistic context. So in the first week we talk about that of 2 weeks of holistic context discussion. You look at how does a holistic context work for developing a farm plan? What are all of the things that you need to consider? And I can tell you that anybody who did the first program with us, which has still got a week to go, had at once a challenging time, but a very mind-opening time that laid the foundation for the rest of the program. A few people were a bit resistant, I must admit, to doing this because it requires you to look quite deeply at what you're doing and what you've done before and what you want to do in the future. And for some people, that's challenging, and we make no bones about that. But that sometimes one needs to be challenged because, as Javin said here, if you're not designing your life, then someone is. And so we think it's really important. And as we went through this, then all of those who found it a little difficult or challenging came right on board, which was great. And some amazing holistic contexts were developed in all ways, shapes, and forms. So that was the next step is, all right, well, we learn how to do it and why it's important, and then we actually develop our own holistic context. And so we think that that's a really, as I mentioned, a really critical part of the pathway to developing what is an achievable farm plan. Now, a lot of people think a farm plan is going to be a design. Well, a design is really about concepts and about the process. The plan is actually something that you're likely to put forward, and it will be made up of designs, but that's the way we look at it. So the next thing is for you to understand how to develop your farm map. We use Google Earth software for that because everyone can have access to it. We have had on this current program a lot of people who've gone and used QGIS or MapInfo or a number of other more sophisticated and in some cases more expensive software. But I think it's really good to use Google Earth. I use Google Earth all of the time, even though I use MapInfo as a piece of software and have since 1995. I use Google Earth because it allows me to communicate really freely and easily with our clients and participants of our programs because anybody can use it and it's free and it's pretty easy to use. So we show you what its pitfalls are and then we show you and you have to then generate your own farm map using the different layers of information that are available. And we've had some outstanding work produced, and we've also had some very simple work produced. Point being is, to me, is that it's really important that people have some sort of map platform that they're familiar with, that they can start to put things down on and start to do their monitoring with and all of that sort of thing as well. So that's where we are with week 4. Week 5 is where we have Gorgi Pavlov and myself, and we come together and do keyline geographic analysis. Keyline is very fundamental to the Regrarians platform, particularly when it comes to the geography layer, and also when one understands truly how to apply keyline to a landscape, then it makes, as P.A. Yeomans put here, the landscape speaks to you and it tells you where to put different elements such as water, roads, water resources or infrastructure, roads, trees, buildings and fencing systems. So it tells you where to more or less put all of that because the landscape tells you where. So understanding keyline geographic analysis is, again, if you look at the holistic context as being really about your personal context and about your framework and your landscape, well, in the keyline geographic analysis is really what we use to the landscape itself. It helps us to marry between to get a marriage between the context of you and your enterprise and your family and your community, and the context of the landscape itself and what it's ultimately capable of, etc. What its promises are. Next is the Regrarians platform checklist. We've developed a very extensive checklist. So now that you've got an understanding about what you want to do, now you've got an understanding about what the landscape looks like and you're starting to look at what some of its potentials might be. Now it's a really good time to go and holistically check through the entire checklist that we've got of points to consider when formulating a farm plan. And as I said here, it works. It's got to work for you and put you and your landscape at the centre of the process. So we've developed a very extensive and easy checklist. It's just a table with lots of questions, and some of those questions you won't answer because you won't need to, but at least they're there to consider, and you'll go, oh, right, I hadn't thought of that, and so on. Or you'll go, no, that doesn't apply to me, but it's still something that's worthy of consideration. So we'll go through that, and that also gives us all of us who are participating in this program a really good and common framework from which to reflect on each other's projects. I can read, any of us can read each other's checklist and go, okay, that really sums things up. Similarly, if you read each other's holistic context, you can really get a strong sense of what the raison d'etre of your project is, or a project is. So now we look at site analysis, and so in week 7, this is where we expect that you'll get out onto your property, or you'll just do some work, some deeper work to look at it. We have my friend and mentor, Graham Hand, who's a very experienced holistic management certified educator. That's what HMCE means. And he will work with us to have you understand landscape function. What we want to have people understand is that monitoring and understanding landscape or ecological processes, landscape function or ecosystem processes, are really important as a fundamental to managing any landscape. And so that's where we start. And then we look at, within that module, also aspects of what you should be looking for in terms of other site analysis information. So Graham will do the landscape function and ecosystem processes part of that program, and has some really good tools to help you with that. I will do a broader range of analyses techniques that you should be looking at, and are specified in the Regrarian's handbook in the geography chapter. So that's a pretty full-on week, that one, because you've got, in large part, you'll be out on your property. Some people weren't able to do that week. Some of you might even be snowed under by then. So when this is happening, gives you the opportunity to, and I'll come back to this in a moment, gives you the opportunity to go out and have a look at the place a bit earlier. Some of you will live there, so you're doing it all of the time, or have a really good understanding. But it'll give you a good new set of eyes over which to, or lens, a new lens to look at your landscape and how it's actually running. Next thing is Regrarian's platform concept planning. So this is where you take everything that you've learned so far about your place and about the techniques that we put in front of you and that others are working with, and we discuss each twice a week, and through the forum, which I'll discuss in a moment. And and then when you start to put that all onto paper, so you'll get into Google Earth or whatever you're comfortable with, and you'll start to work on what we call the development layers typically. So the water layer, the access layer, the forestry, buildings and fencing layer. And that might involve, as I've put here, putting water storages in, or pipes, designing farm roads, orchards, shelter belts, any other forestry systems, looking at fencing systems and any farm buildings, etc. So within the Regrarian's platform, they are what we call the development layers. So climate and geography are really the context layers. What we call the constitutional layers. These ones here are the development layers. And then we have the economy and energy as additional layers in the platform to consider. Week 9, which is the week we're in now on the current Rex, is where we've got a couple of people come along. In this case, we had Erin Axelrod from Lift Economy in California come, and she works with people all throughout the US and the Americas to help them to start their businesses up and then to get through that really vital, or not just start, but start up their businesses, but start the change. So you might have an existing enterprise, and Erin will help you to go from where you are now to where you want to be. And they've got a really great organisation that work with some really some large companies, but also some just people like many of you on this call who are just looking to make some basic changes in their lives to. And what are some of the testing decisions that you might have to take you forward on that? So, and as I've put it here, does your project need a big D development approach, or is it a big M management approach? So you're going to have a really big focus on development, or is management more of something that you need to look at? So Erin has some really good tools, and I also add on to that, and we have some other people who, through the program and through that week, will contribute to you from the Agrarians team. So that's it's been a really great week, and then after that, the last week, which is where we start on Sunday, Monday, is our last week, and that's where we basically do a big recap where we say, all right, well, you've done all of this. Do you need to catch up on anything? Is there anything you haven't had answered so far? What are the new things that are coming up to you? What support do you need from now on, and so on? And how do you link in with, and so on? So a lot of that's already been done. What I'll just elaborate on from that is that for a start, we've got this amazing team, and they have proved to be amazing, as you'll see. A whole number of people who, with the time that they've got available, some have more than others, have been able to come in and chime in on call to you for any questions that you might have. And so it's quite an expansive list of people. That every one of these people I've worked with, and I have a really, so I've selectively invited each one of these people to be involved, and because they're all really good, solid, decent people for a start, and also they are contributors. They see this whole program for what it is, and that is to help people like you do better. And they've been really active with that. So where's our home? Well, our home is the new Agrarians workplace, and some of you might be familiar with this, and in that it looks like Facebook, and that's because this was developed by Facebook, and it's a relatively new innovation. Think of the workplace app from Facebook as being a new intranet, and think of it also as being a replacement for a forum, for a classic internet forum that has some of the limitations of a forum overcome in a framework, in an interface which is clearly the world's leading social media interface, and that's Facebook. But it's not Facebook because it's outside of Facebook. I can't. What we have here is a space that is completely our own. And we've set it up so that we have, just to give you an indication here, so I've got a few questions to answer each day. So these are my notifications. So just like you get in Facebook, you get a whole series of notifications. Just like you get in Facebook, you get messages. So I've got a whole lot of different messages coming through each day. This all works on your phone as well. So if you have a device, you can have. So a lot of you will have Facebook on your phone. You'll have Facebook pages, and you might have Facebook Messenger, all as separate apps. But let's say you've got Facebook and you've got Facebook Messenger. Well, on my phone, I have Workplace, and I have the Workplace Chat. So Workplace Chat is the same as Messenger. I have those two apps, and So I'm now within my own community of people. We've got about 200 people on this at the moment, and that's growing. We'll probably have, by the time you guys come along, close to 400 people, all of whom have done either an on-site Rex that we did. We did 13 10-day Rex programs last year across the world. We did one in France earlier this year in June. And we also did another one, the first one, we did two others, one in 2014 here in Victoria, Australia, and we did the first one in the UK at the Cowdrey Estate in Sussex in 2011. So we've got all of those people have been invited, and many of them have come along to here. We've got clients of ours are in here, and we also have members of the Agrarians team. And last but not least is all of the people who are currently participating in the program. Now, what you can see here is, let's just look at Pedro's post here. He's tagged me, just as you can in Facebook. He's looking at a question about how to store water, or how much, also how to factor in sediment carried across, blah, blah, blah. Now, this was asked 8 hours ago. I stopped work 9 hours ago, so I haven't seen this question. It's come into my dashboard, into my news feed, and already, so Justin is a past Rex participant, but he's also participating in this particular program, and so he's talking about it. Paul Caragino is, he did the Rex in Oregon last year, and he works for the US government as a consultant within the US government in Washington State and in Oregon, and has a vast amount of experience on here. So what I'm getting to is that a lot of the time when people ask questions in here, it's not just Darren Doherty who answers them, it's also the people around you who are giving you advice, because each of you on this call has something to contribute. And also members of the Agrarians team who we support financially by your payments to support them. So they put in their hours each week and for supporting us, so for supporting you. So it's a pretty tidy process. Now, in terms of we've got all kinds of different stuff. So here's Blake. So Blake is a participant. He's from up in North Queensland. He's already created his own profile, and he tells you all what he's about. And he's interested in what's going on here with his particular site. So he's created a really good contour map of his site, and he's looking at some keyline elements. So Gorigi and myself will answer that. We're looking at all sorts of different things here. So now the other part about the way we've organised that, so that's in my news feed. The other thing that we've got is groups. So many of you will be part of Facebook groups. But the thing is, when you're in Facebook, there's all of this other noise and distraction around that. Well, when you're in workplace, there's no distraction unless you've got your Facebook tab there open, demanding that you go and be distracted in there. But when you're in here, you're just within this community. Now, just to give you the drill, with groups, in the way that we've set up this for you and for the Rex and for our broader, so just to go back a moment, just so you understand, the Agrarians workplace is where we communicate with our whole community of colleagues, course or program participants, past participants, and colleagues and clients. So everyone is in here, and we've only just started working with this since the start of the last Rex, and it's only been in the last month that we've really started to use this. So it's relatively new, but already it's proved to be an absolute boon for us. So in Facebook, you have groups. In Facebook or in workplace, you also have groups, but groups become the topics, they become the forums. And so when we look at the different groups that we have, there are a whole number of different groups. And you can be, and these groups, some of them, like here's one, an agro silvipastoral investments group. It's a secret group. So you can create secret groups with other members of the workplace and talk about investment programs that you might have going on. You might have something that's just about your site because you've got a few people. Because as you may not know, as you may know or may not, when you pay the fee for joining the Rex, that allows you to not only be for you, but it's a per project fee. So we've got one group that's got 10 people on it. So they've paid the fee, the full program fee, and there's 10 people working on that particular project. So we don't charge per individual. If it is an individual, then it's an individual price. But if you are working on one site, on one project, whoever else you have working on that, as long as they're honestly involved, well, then they come in and you can and get availed to all of this material and get access to the Regrarians workplace ad infinitum. So Pedro from Portugal, he's got a few people that have joined in on his closed group because they are, and some of those are actually, there's Capsali Farm Peter. Peter there, he lives in Australia, but he's got an online relationship with Pedro now, and they're seeking to support each other. So that's the way that works. But in any case, now what we have otherwise is you can see here that you've got R10 week 1. So R10 means Rex 10 week, week 1, week 2, week 3. Now, you will get access to each one of those. You will get access. So let's just have a quick look at week 1. So this is just to understand that we used a different program platform in the last Rex. So this hasn't been used at all. But each week, we put the recording of every session. So you can go back and look at the previous sessions. You can also, we'll be doing every Rex we do, we'll do a new webinar, which will be recorded, and it will be added to here. So you get access to those at any time. So if you miss the webinar and you can't be on there, this is posted straight away after the webinar is completed. We put it up onto YouTube in an unlisted section there as an unlisted YouTube, and then it gets posted up onto here as a link. So you can watch that anytime you wish. And as I said, ad infinitum. So this will be a really good resource for you in the future. You'll get multiple opportunities to look at different Regrarians team members deliver new developed messages and webinars. But that's fundamentally how it goes. So I'll just go back for a moment. So each week, so let's come to one that's been more recent. So we've just done the Regrarians concept planning. So here, so Tom Gaston, Tom has a large property of about 6,000 acres, I think 6,000 or 6,000 hectares. He has two properties, actually, one that's this and another one that's about 30,000 acres. So we've got people who've got small properties and large, which is really great because it gives participants quite a broad perspective. There you can see a notification just popped up, just like it does ordinarily in Facebook. And so Tom's uploaded his concept plan, which is in Google Drive, and I'll show you a bit about that in a moment. And with that, I just click on that, and that takes me directly to a KMZ file, which then opens directly up in Google Earth, which I can then use to review what he's talking about, and then we start a conversation about what's going on. So that's where that all takes place, and then there's people like Peter Kalakarenos with his wife Lisa who are doing this project. They thought it was useful to go and do a tour of their farm on a motorbike, which we can see here. So he's whizzed around his farm. So
when they turn up.
So that's just a little snippet of the way some people are presenting their materials, which is great. People have different questions that they had on the webinars that weren't quite caught up with or needed more elaboration. So Chris Moore, who's one of the Regrarians team members, he's added that in here and that's been dealt with. So it's a really great framework. We're stoked that this has come along because it's answered so many questions of ours, and it means that we can just keep that we and the team and you can keep on top of things, which is a really important thing here. That we want to serve you as well as we can, and so this platform allows us to do that. Now let's just have a look at another part of the program that's important to understand and review. What you'll see here is we have two. When you enroll in the program, you get access to two different Google Drives that we've developed. One is called the Regrarians Platform Resources, and here this is where, since this was started by Tigray Pickett last year after we did the first Rex in California in March, and it's since become this really amazing resource that the Regrarians network, if you like, have contribute to. So you get the keys to this, and what that means is that you get the ability to edit, and by that we mean you get the ability to be able to add things within the categories of the Regrarians platform. So let's just have a look at water, for example. So I've done very little of this. This is basically people like you who've said, all right, well, I've found a resource about dams. So I've added articles or books or whatever, PDFs about dams. Or I'm from California. These are some of the resources that I've got in California. So there's a particular resource there. Or I want to know about pumps. So there's something about pumps and so on. So it's a resource or runoff coefficients. I want to know about runoff coefficients. So if you go through this is to get access to this for a lot of you will be really, really helpful and has proved to. It's also something, it's like our library, if you like, that we can refer you to. So when we're in the Regrarians workplace, what we can do is just if there's a question that you have, then we can get anything off the internet, as Paul has done here, and just refer to an NRCS document, or we can refer to a particular online resource, or we can refer you directly to one of these resources in here. So that's the library of the workshop of the program, if you like. Secondly is the Rex 10 week, and I'll just dip into there. So this is what you will interact with each week. And this is where you can store a lot of your details. So just to give you an indication, so this is where people do put their weekly task work. So let's just have a look here. I'll pick out here. Okay, Jenny K. So Jenny K here has developed a holistic context, and with that she's developed all of this information, which when you read through gives one a really simple understanding, and holistic understanding of what Jen and her family want to achieve. And so that goes in there, and it's all catalogued according to each week. So Google Documents or Google Drive is very, very easy to use. And good thing is too, is if I just go back to that for a moment, I'll just go to Jackie here. Oh, she hasn't done her homework. That's up to you. I'm not going to chase you up if you haven't. I'll go back to, wrong person. Let's look at Justin. No, he hasn't done it either. Anybody done it? Yeah. So what I've got here is Dana from Minnesota. She has done this work. What we can do now is you can just click on this, right-click on that and share the link. And when I just copy that link, and once I copy that, I can then go in here and just go to the right week. So if that is week 3, I will go back to here. I'll go to week 3. I'll just go week 3, R10, week 3. And I'll go into there, holistic context development, and then I'll just paste into there, and then that will, and you just tag whoever you want to be tagged, and off you go. And so there you can see that she's used this mind map type process to graphically develop her or outline her holistic context. And so from that, we can then see all that needs to be seen about that. So that's how that works. So when we're looking at the platforms that we use, you will spend your time in 3 different spaces. One will be in here, which is where you put in your task work. It's also got all of the Regrarians team contacts, etc. as well, which you can see. So you'll spend time in there submitting your task work. That then gets linked back to the workplace, and then the other platform that we use is Google Earth. And that's it. So I think I've covered most things that I wanted to cover. I might head over to you now, and there might be some other things I haven't that I've missed. So I'll just go through some of these questions here. Okay. So a few people just saying, where is your screen? But before we get to that, let's look at a question here from... Okay, so this first question. We've got first is from Thomas Conan, and hello, Darren from Germany. So hello, Thomas, and welcome. Second point that I've got here is this program seems to be marketed mostly as a way to create your own farm plan. How does it compare to previous Rex classes that seem to be focused on training, especially if you don't have a property to design? Great question. Thank you, Zachary Rudolph. You're right. The big thing that we saw from doing the on-site 10-day Rex programs was that a lot of people really enjoyed the opportunity of doing that process, but as we went through it, a lot of people kept looking over their shoulder at their own projects or projects like you say here. You may not have a property to design. Well, I'd challenge that you probably do. You can always use a friend's or a relative's or something like that. So you can always use somebody's. But we were just challenged by the fact that that spirit of individualism that often comes through in these things was really strong, and that there's only so much enthusiasm and effort that was there for doing this for somebody else. So there was a bit of that. I should say, by the same token, people put in the whole way through, and it was a really valuable process. The other thing that we thought was that, and this has been shown through in this here, is that when you show people, so the way we ran the on-site Rexes is every day we did a topic per day. So we do climate on day 1, geography day 2, and water day 3, and so on. And then so we do that in the morning. We do a presentation, and then in the afternoon, people would do they get together in groups, and then they would work on that layer. So on the water day, I would do a presentation on all the things that you would do about water. And then in the afternoon, you would get access. Then you would come together in your groups after lunch and work on the water layer. And then in the last session of the day, you would then present your findings. And we did that every day. And for one, there was a certain monotony that people were getting from that, but there wasn't really any way I could get around that. That was one thing, not a big complaint. But 2 was that what I just started to see was a lot of people just started to parrot whatever I presented in the morning in the presentation. So they saw all of the techniques things, and you might say design signatures or planning signatures, and those signatures would then just get in some part cut and pasted onto the subject project. And that to me, having been involved in training for a long time, one of the things that I've done as an experiment over the journey has been to say, all right, well, here's a site. Tell me what you think you should do with a small amount of prior learning, and then just see what you can come up with. And then after that, get some more information on what could be done. And when we've done that process, we've found that people have not just taken my ideas or what I think or whomever else has been the best ideas, and then just somehow find a way that they'll be put on that landscape or in that site or in that enterprise, but they'll come up with stuff of their own. And so that's a really powerful difference. And we found that this program here, where we've taught you how to fish without catching the fish for you, has proved my theory that it's better to teach people how to fish than to go and do the fish, than to go and not just teach them, but actually go and catch the fish and then hand the fish to them so that they can just go and do the same, go and fish in exactly the same way. So if you follow the analogy, so I think that it's this particular program, and that's why I'm calling it a program, not a course. This is 80% interaction between all of us, and it's 80% you doing your own farm plan and 20% training. But training with all of this support, which is obvious, as you can see from the screen and the way we're working with the workplace. The Rexes that we did on site were really 50+% training and 50% you doing a farm plan, but on someone else's site. So I think that probably explains it. And certainly feel free to ask a supplementary question there, Zachary, which you have. I'll just take that while you've got it. So thank you, Zachary. So as a follow-up, would you recommend this program for a college student looking to pursue regenerative agriculture professionally? Well, if you are looking, I asked the question, what does that actually mean in terms of pursuing regenerative agriculture professionally? Because if you're you may look to do the kind of work that I'm doing as a regenerative agriculture professional, but you also may be a professional in the field where you're actually a farmer. In either case, I think that to be involved in this community of elite, I won't stop short of saying elite land management professionals. And when I say that, I mean people who are elite farmers. We have some elite farmers in this group. But we also have some elite consultants, some of the best people in this space in the whole world. So I think that at the very least to get access to the network, notwithstanding the going through the program, and then to be continually supported thereafter, is a really good opportunity for someone who's kicking off on all of this. So yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I don't want to give you the impression that this is for everyone. There will be some people to whom this program is not going to suit, but I think for a lot of you it will. If you're looking to learn how to be a better land planner, or as Zachary put it, a land management, regenerative agriculture professional, then we think that the Regrarians platform is a world-leading platform, and we just happen to have assembled within our network some of the best people in regenerative agriculture. So I think you'd probably want to be in there. All right, next one here. This one is from David. Just telling me that I haven't got anything on the screen, and thank you, Anthony. All Right. Now, next question is, thank you, Zachary, for thanking me. Will you be doing another Rex planning program next year or course early next year? I won't quite be ready for October. Look, it's everything's dependent on numbers. And I'm not going to say that we won't do it again, or I hope that we would. We had 120 enrolments for the first Rex. The last 50% came in the last week, and so we only had 50 bookings up to that point, and then with all of the people who were part of each person's enrolment, we had 213, I think, in total for the current one. Now, as I said, that's not total enrolments, that's participants. So look, we have to fund this. Just the payments. The minimum that we need to run this program is 59 people. That's because Regrarians needs to be funded to do this. We also need to fund our payments to the Regrarians team amounts to about $15,000 out of all of this for all of the time that they do, which is invaluable, and I couldn't do it without them. So where I'm getting to, Ashby, is that we need to get the numbers. So I'm not going to say that we won't do it again, but it all depends on the numbers. And if it proves that this is something that we can just roll on, then we will roll on, because we think it's a really valuable program, and we're sort of wondering how else we could do better. Maybe it goes a little longer, not a lot longer. Maybe I don't know any other way, but you can suggest that to us. I hope that answers your question. But thank you, David, for telling me my desktop's working. So, and here's another question here around the same from Ruben Parker Greer. Thank you, Ruben, and welcome. What is the likelihood of the Rex training, online training, being offered on an ongoing basis? I'm flat out with other projects right now and want to make sure that I have a clear plate to give it all I've got. I think it's great. I will say this to people, that one of the things that we're working on right now is we're trying to work out a framework in which, if people do this program once, that they can then do it again. Now, let's be really clear on this, that if you are to sign up to this, then we do any subsequent Rex following the same outline, then you will get access to the new materials that come. You won't necessarily, though, be supported in the way that you were supported when it was your Rex. So what I mean by that, let's say I've got Rupert on the screen here at the moment. Now, Rupert is doing the current program, and he's just typed up. Now, let's say that Rupert wants to do another one, and because he didn't, just wasn't able to find the time, and we have a few people like that. They're a bit behind on things, and they have said to us, they've said to themselves, well, look, I know that I can do this later on because there'll be a next one, but I also know that needs to be supported. So we're trying to work out right now what sort of, so the whole group of us are talking about a subscription or a flat fee or some other extra payment that people may be able to make, so that if there's a subsequent Rex that they want to be involved with, then that they can, and still have all of their questions answered with the fullness of our attention. Now, if Rupert comes back during your particular Rex and hasn't chosen to support us, and he's inside of the Regrarians workplace, which he is, and he asks questions, well, then it's likely those questions will be answered, but they won't be at the top of the pile because we just don't have the resources to support that at this stage. That's something that more broadly we're looking at as an organisation and as a community of people. So just to give you an insight into where we're at, that as our community grows and as its demands grow, we're trying to have it so that when you come into the room, you're not just in here for a little while, you're in here for the longer term. So yeah, I know that doesn't answer your question directly, but it does give you an indication of the way that Brigrarians are looking to support people who support us and our team over the longer term. Okay, next question. So thank you, Ruben, for the opportunity, and thanks for thanking me. So, this is from Ashby again. Thank you, Ashby. Should I get a RTK survey done on our farm prior to undertaking the course to get the most out of it? Look, I'd have to say that would be ideal. If I could just make a couple of points, though. RTK, for those of you who don't know, is real-time kinematic GPS, or global positioning system. It's a really high-grade survey technique that is people use either a motorcycle or on foot. They use some instruments to take sub-centimetre GPS readings across the site for longitude, latitude, and altitude. And then from that, you're able to put that into software and generate a really high-resolution contour map. They're great. I'd put it this way, Ashby, that as with any higher resolution survey work that you pay for, from our perspective, it's got to be paid back. Now, it may be that you just want to get it done because your context is, I want to get this done because I want to have the best resources for farm planning that I can, and that the money that I spend on this is discretionary. Your context might also be that you don't have that money, and that your project, when you really look at it, doesn't require that resolution. So why do it if you don't need it? If you follow, you may well just be able to get away with using your government data or something else. So if you feel that there is a return, or one, that you feel that you would like it because you think it would allow you to do the best job you can, then great, go for it if you've got the means to do that. If you don't have the means, then, or you look at things saying, I want to get a return on investment on everything that I invest in, well then, so if you're, then look at it that way. If you're doing let's say a pastoral project, you've got pastures, and you're looking at putting a couple of ponds in or dams, and you're looking at doing a bit of this and that, then do you need an RTK survey? Probably not. You might spend thousands of dollars doing so when you've got an enterprise that pays you back very little in return for that. So you're just not getting the bang for buck. Whereas you might have a project which has a lot of water work going on. It might be a vineyards or orchard systems and that sort of thing. If that's the case, then you want to know what the shape of your landscape is really accurately, and it will be a really useful tool to have that high-resolution survey that you can draw upon and use as part of your design and planning work. So it really depends on where you're going there. Now, Fabienne, so thank you for that question, Ashby. But yes, if you can get it done beforehand, that will be a really big help. Because you will otherwise need it you really need it by week 4 is when you need it, because that's when we start to develop the farm map, and particularly by week 5. So, one thing I'll say right now before I move on to the next question is that we will be, this is what I hope will happen, depending on numbers, but we will be closing bookings a week before we start. And I haven't sort of said too much about this yet because I've only got 3 bookings so far. And I really hope that we get this one up. But like I said, I need another 57 bookings to make it fly. But we will be spending that week prior to the 15th, 16th to get you completely oriented. So we'll have a couple of sessions like this. So you're right inside of the room, and all of your questions that you have to be answered will be answered in that week, as opposed to in this first week when you should be just concentrating on the program itself. And that's feedback from the first program, where people were coming in and they were trying to find where they were and how to do things and blah blah blah. And that upset the amount of time that they had to actually get to work on the program. And so we really want to spend that time. We really want to spend that time with you prior to the program starting to get that going. All right. Fabienne Dor, yes, we've started. I hope you were able to hear ultimately. You might just have to fiddle around with your settings there, or as some people need to go out and come in. But anyway, I've got all of you listed here, so we will be able to send you out the copy of this once we're done. So you don't miss out on the questions and answers and all of the stuff I've presented. So the next question is from Sue Ryan. Welcome, Sue. How steep can we go with applying these ideas? At what grade should land simply be retired and planted in trees? That's something to determine. I think it's a really great question. When we have a week here where we've got where we're doing the keyline geographic analysis, that week there we also do some land capability analysis as well. And in that will help you to decide basically what goes where. Because what a lot of this is about, as I said before, is you're trying to get your context to match that of the landscape. Now, I might just read a little bit into your words saying, well, if you're saying that land should be simply retired and planted in trees, well, then that says a lot about your attitudes, if you might say, if I could be so bold. And so you're bringing that to a landscape that you're managing. So if you have a proclivity to that kind of attitude to say, well, look, I'm not going to force the land along here. I'm just going to try and establish it into trees because I like trees. Well, guess what? If you've got the capacity to do that, then that's your context. Will work with you to see that happen. You might also come to the same landscape and say, well, gee, it's a really hard-ass landscape, if you'll excuse my language, but I can make it do what I want it to do, because you can. A lot of people live in some extraordinarily difficult landscapes and still are able to make them do something of what they want to do. So yeah, it's definitely up to you as to what you do, but obviously each landscape has its limits and limitations and capabilities. So we'll work with you to help you understand that. This is from Mark Wilson. Thank you, Mark, and welcome. How many people were enrolled in the first session? Yeah, I think we had 120 enrolments in total, registrations, and like I said, the last 50% came in the last week, and about 215 or so participants in total. In terms of activity, which goes to your next point, so do you limit how many can be enrolled in the upcoming program? Look, I probably wouldn't want to go too many more than that. It hasn't been a stress to any of us. When I look, the Regrarians team members, we have an active core of about 6 or 7 of those who are on every day answering and contributing wherever they can. And then we have the rest of them. We have come in ephemerally. So when they've got time, or when we've tagged them to come in and answer a particular question. So when we look at it from our capacity to serve those who are enrolled, we've had no dramas with the numbers that we've had. Can I also make the point that not every one of those 120 people have actually been active? As you saw before, when I looked at some of the folders there of people's work, some people hadn't been putting stuff up. Now, we go through and look at everyone's stuff. That's part of our role. we do expect that people remind us that they've done something, and that's why it's important to link in to the Regrarians workplace so that when you've done something, put it up so that we can talk about it, because this is the easiest place for us to talk about it. We will go through and look at all of your work, and if you haven't done it, I'm not going to say, hey, get to work, because thank you, Lara, nice to have you here. We're not going to say come and or get to work. This is not school. This is an adult program, and we expect that you will respect your investment in this program, and your respect in that investment will be by your participation. We're not going to go and knock on your door and say, "Hey, mate, your homework's late." I mean, it's not school, all right? So, what you get out of this will be completely up to you. We have some people who ask me 10 questions a day, and that is absolutely fine, because that's them trying to get the absolute most out of this. And then we have some people who've asked one question or who've submitted one thing for the whole program, and they've been happy with that, and they've said, "Oh yeah, I haven't been able to do all that I wanted to do, but it's been great anyway, watching all of the webinars and blah blah blah," because that we've met their needs where they are at currently. So yeah, so in terms of limits, I think that you will find that we could probably go to maybe another 100 in total participation, and I don't think that we'd have any dramas with managing the numbers, with being able to deliver, Mark. So thank you for the good question. I'll just follow up with Ashby here. Could you possibly keep me updated as to whether you believe the numbers for the following upcoming course will enable you to do another one for next year? If not, I might sign up for this course, so I don't want to miss out. Yeah, well, look, we're not going to get into this business of, oh, well, we've got 2 spaces left. I don't play that game. I know that's a pretty old and well-used marketing trick. We're not into that sort of thing. So keep an eye out a couple of weeks. So I'd say come to the start of October, we'll have a pretty good idea by then as to what we've got. We're going to be doing these webinars weekly from now on until we start. So we're also going to be doing some Q&A webinars every week or 2 weeks to give people opportunities to just ask broader questions. And so that will give people an opportunity. One thing I'd encourage people to do to help us help you, if you want to do this, is I'll just show you this before any of you toddle off. Is we do have the where is it? How come that's like that? That shouldn't look like that. Looks terrible. We have the affiliate program. So one thing that you can do to help us get numbers is, one, share the link, rex.farm, on your Facebook or social media. 2 is to sign up as so go to the Regrarians website, and just minimize that a bit, and you can go onto our mailing list. So go onto there and get onto our mailing list. So subscribe to our newsletter, and share the Rex. But also, if you sign up to the affiliate program, then you can get $50 for every person, US dollars for every person that signs up. So you also get a free DVD of the Polyfaces documentary. And also, any sign-ups get all of the chapters of the Regrarians e-handbook as well, all bundled into the price. So yes, help us to help you with that if you would, and that'll help us to make sure that we get more programs going. But we'll certainly be honest with people in the weeks prior to our starting time, as to whether this is going or not. And obviously, if it goes ahead, well, that'll give us the confidence to go ahead next year as well. All right. Thank you for that, Ashby. No worries. Thanks, mate. This is from Sean Bluthenthal. Thank you, Sean. Welcome. Darren, my partner Emily and I are not current owners, but intend to be in 1 year's time. Would we benefit from taking the program now, or should we wait? I think that, well, let's just contextualize this on the basis of the last answer, that we don't know how many of these will do. We don't know. This is not. We're not in a popular business. If I could put it to people quite bluntly, if I was running this as a permaculture program, then because permaculture is put out there as a modality that is all things to all people, then it is a much more popular program. And so I would say that if I was to do this as a labelled and running as a permaculture program, then we would run this pretty frequently because it's a popular concept. Our concept and our methodology is not that popular. We're working on agricultural landscapes, which, as a lot of you will know, there's a decline in numbers of people in agricultural landscapes. So we're sort of, our ambition is to regenerate those, but we're sort of working in a space that has a declining number of people, unfortunately. So it doesn't quite answer your question, Sean, but it does. We are very, very clear about the market that we work within. And so I'm not going to say that we're not going to run something again, but we may not. We may look at doing something else that keeps the Agrarians non-profit alive. That I could say there are a few people who have done or who are doing the current Rex program and who don't have land, but are using someone else's land as a test for them to run through. I think that's been really valuable for them, and I don't think they've told me that this has been really valuable for them, so that when they come to do their farm plan on there, they have already done it on somewhere else. Now, as we've said, there will be the opportunity, if we continue to do more Rexes, that you will get a substantially discounted rate to do another one or participate, at the very least, as a member of the Agrarians workplace. You will get to witness those and you will get your questions answered and so on. So, as I said before, what we're trying to do here is to teach you and to work with you to develop your own farm plan. The fact that you will develop a farm plan and be involved in a whole network of people who are interested in farm planning and farming in agriculture, in generative agriculture, is, I think, a really good reason why one would do this, even though you don't yet have land. Please feel free, any of you, to have a follow-up. This one's from Ernst Jordan. Thanks, Darren. A lot of people might have 9 to 5 jobs as part of families who would love to be part of an on-farm program. My question is a ballpark workload in hours we should plan for in our week to be part of this program. Great question, and thank you for prompting me to say that have a look at this 10-week FAQ. I'm sorry I didn't refresh you on that, but we have a whole list of points that we've made there. There's also, I don't know why that's not there, there's also have a look at this. Where has everything gone? I might have to relink that. There's a video there that my wife Lisa and our daughter Isabella did, which was a sort of a Q&A one. But in the very least, have a look at the Q&A, at the FAQ here. So, how much time do you need? Or can I do this, Rex, if I can't make the live sessions? How much experience do I need? Why should I do it? What size farm? What is a farmer? Can I do this as a consultant? What's my time commitment? There's 4 hours a week in online sessions, and most people that we're talking to are spending anywhere between 10 to 12 hours a week if they're really putting in. Some people are putting in less. Some people are putting in a lot more. It's almost become their job. But that's cool because they've put themselves in a space where where they are, because their project is such a, it's their life's project. They're putting in the time that they see as being necessary to have that outcome. So it's like with anything. Like if you've got a new business that's going to start, well, you should spend a tremendous amount of time in planning for how that new business and your marketing plans and then your operations plans and all of these different things that you've got to do. When you actually press the go button, how well it actually goes is going to depend a lot on how much effort you put into planning prior to. So, and farm enterprises are no different. What you put in in planning is what you'll get out, and you'll get a lot of the answers that you don't know later on. Okay, so thank you for that. I hope that answered your question. Yes, thanks for that, Darren. Thank you, Ernst. This one's from Thomas Conan. Dr. Alan Williams is on our team. Can you just elaborate on who Alan Williams is, just so that I know, because I've not heard that name, Thomas. Just if you can elaborate. Okay, great. This is from Ruben. Thanks, Darren. Great answer and great webinar. It's been wonderful. And also from Ruben, great to know I can get the audio. Looking forward to listening off to drop kids off at school. Yes, thanks. Yes, enjoy that. And I think that's all we've got in terms of questions. So if anybody's got any more, I'll please do. Otherwise, I'll close all of this down and put the recording and then send it out to all of those who are on this call and any others. So if you've got any other questions about the program or your projects as regards the program, then please let me know. And I'll just give you a few moments to do that. And I'll take this opportunity to thank all of you who came along today. I hope that we've been able to answer your questions there. Just to recap, really important for you to have a look at go through and have a look at the agenda and be clear about all of that. Have a look at the profiles of many of the members of the Regrarians team, but also have a look at the FAQ and just read carefully through that to see what's going on there, because that will give you a really good understanding of many of the questions that people have asked or will ask. Give you the link to the Rex affiliate page if you want to join up with that, and so on. But with that, thank you all of you who are now thanking me, Mark and Ernst and others. And I think I'll bid you all good morning. Thank you.